So I'm adopted, for those who don't know. I was born in West Africa, Liberia, and came to America at age 5.
What are some things that you
Yeah.
do remember, and what are some things that have sort of stayed with you even
Right.
after you moved here?
I remember a lot of things. Sad to say, it's not a lot of good memories.
Sure.
Because even though I lived in Liberia, a lot of African countries are very poor, and especially a lot of West countries in Africa are very, very poor. And Liberia is a poor country. And my birth mom had a lot of kids. A lot of them were older, so they had their own kids too. But I'm the youngest. My mom was a bakery and a cook, and so she would cook a lot and take it to churches or farmers markets or a lot of things like that. But she could not take care of my sister and I. She couldn't be there to watch us, and she didn't have money, like if we got sick or whatnot.
Hey, Princess. How's it going?
Hello. I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. Doing good. Have you had something to eat yet?
I have not. I brought a smoothie with me, but we're probably not going to drink that yet.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Before we get started, if you want to let the people on the internet know who you are, what you do, any likes and dislikes in personal life, future aspirations, anything and everything you're comfortable sharing about yourself.
Okay. Well, hello, everybody. I'm Princess Stewart. I go to UCO, like most people on this podcast. I am a double major, so in accounting and interpersonal communications. I want to take my degree to go into law school. I got accepted into the law school in Austin, Texas, so I'm excited about that.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. So, yeah. What do I like to do? I love listening to music, hanging out with friends, getting out of like the house, the dorms, exploring places, reading, working, believe it or not, and sleeping. Some things I do not like. Let's see here. I do not like driving. And, oh gosh. I'm starting to not like being a morning person because I wake up early and go work at a bakery. So waking up early has become a thing I do not like. But yeah, I think that's about it.
What about driving do you not like?
I don't know. If it's like driving for a little bit, I'm okay with that. But like I'm getting ready to go to Texas soon, and we're road tripping there, and it's just the constant, just like straight drive. Like that's just so boring to me, and I like fall asleep. Even if I have music on, I will fall asleep, and I'm just like, wake up, wake up, wake up. But it's also peaceful, and you know, especially if you're on your own, you get really into your thoughts, and that can be scary too. So, but yeah, that's.
Do you like have energy drinks not worked for you?
Oh yeah, energy drinks don't work for me.
Gotcha.
They don't work for me. I don't know if it's because I have ADHD or what it is, but like even Monsters, Red Bulls, coffee, no, none of those work for me.
Wow.
Caffeine, no, doesn't work for me either. So, yeah.
Yeah, because I guess that's one of the scary things about driving, right? Like if you fall asleep on the wheel, especially on a highway, especially in Texas, you don't want to be doing that. Yeah. How is your did you get diagnosed recently with ADHD, or is it something that you've already been diagnosed with?
I've already been diagnosed with this. Let's see here. So I'm adopted. For those who don't know, I was born in West Africa, Liberia, and came to America at age 5. And I went through all the grades. But in elementary, my teachers noticed I was a little too distracted. I could not focus. Certain like tasks like coloring, I would focus on that, or I just couldn't focus at all. I'm not good at cutting. I'm still not good at cutting things. And just certain things they picked up on, and they called my mom in one day and were like, have you noticed these things? She struggles with like completing tasks because in school we had chores that, you know, like, oh, today you're going to wipe off the whiteboard, or you're going to help me collect the folders and da-da-da. I could not focus on that. And I was also a troublemaker. So they were just wondering, like, is this me, or is there something more going on, or something like happening in the household? And my mom did notice things in the household too. Like, she'd tell me to do something, I'm like, I forget, or I just don't do it, or just just so much energy. My mom put me in a lot of sports. I still had too much energy. So I think second grade, she was like, yeah, let's go get you tested. And so they do like a lot of, for ADHD, whenever I was there, I remember them doing like little distractions. They would play like random noises or say certain things or certain activities they tell me to do, and I got so distracted, like easily distracted. And so with all of that, came to the conclusion, yes, I have ADHD. I took medicine for a while. I stopped taking it in like high school just because I'm like, it'd calm me down. But sometimes like it'd make me too mellow to where people are like, is she dead? Like, wake up, like, are you okay? And I wanted to be alive in high school. So I sometimes take it if I need to really focus. So like coming up with big tests like college and finals and stuff. But yeah, that is the story.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Do you have to see someone often?
I used to, yes. I used to. And they would just see like how the progress is going or if they need to up the medicine or low dosage or I don't even know how much I took. I don't know, but it's like one pill every day. I take it. And I used to see somebody, but after we moved and then just, yeah.
Gotcha. Have they like talked to you about like any, I don't know how much meditation, all those kind of things work in these cases. I've not really looked into that as much, but do they like talk about things like that or like things that you could do to calm yourself down?
Yes, yeah. When I was, when I was younger, it used to be so bad. Like the energy just, they would tell me, okay, go somewhere quiet a little bit and just count down from like 10 and just take deep breaths and just try to calm yourself down. Because I'd either be like too hyper or sometimes I get really angry. Don't know why. So they like just count on your breathing, relax, turn on some like soothing music or especially at nighttime, I could not sleep. When it came to bedtime, I could not sleep. And my mom would like play background music or background noises. And sometimes that helped me, but most of the time, no. So it was just trying to find a calm area or go in a calm mindset, a calm space where I'm like, okay, I can calm down. They think a lot of it deals with like trauma from growing up and being in a loud environment and always having to move or react in a certain way to where like coming to America, it's not like that anymore, but I don't know how to control it. I always feel like I need to be on the go and something's happening. So yeah, I've gotten better at it now that I'm older, so I can like calm down and breathe and go on walks. I do that a lot. Reading a book sometimes helps me. But yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned you moved here when you were 5?
Yes.
Do you have any memories of back home?
I do.
Because, at that age, like, I guess you have some core memories, but then you don't often remember a lot. But then I guess in your case, because of how unique it is, I can't imagine like what things you remember and what things you don't remember. If you're comfortable sharing, what are some things that you do remember and what are some things that have sort of stayed with you even after you moved here?
Right. So things, I remember a lot of things. Sad to say, it's not a lot of good memories.
Sure.
Because even though I lived in Liberia, a lot of African countries are very poor, and especially a lot of West countries in Africa are very, very poor. And Liberia is a poor country. And my birth mom had a lot of kids. A lot of them were older, so they had their own kids too. But I'm the youngest. So my mom had me and then my 2 years sister. So we're close in age. And my mom was a bakery and a cook. And so she would cook a lot and take it to churches or farmers markets or a lot of things like that. But she could not take care of my sister and I. She couldn't be there to watch us. And she didn't have money, like if we got sick or whatnot. And so one day, I just remember there was a period of time my mom was sick and no one could find her. And my sister and I would like ask family members and ask our older siblings. No one could find my mom. And it turned out she was in like a camp for people who were sick. And there was also a war happening during that time too. I remember a lot of bombs going off. I remember it being very loud. And no one could find my mom. And I remember police officers or whatever, they came, they took my sister and I, and they dropped us off at an orphanage home or a foster home. And that foster home was very bad. There were a lot of kids, like probably 100 kids, but we were very malnourished. They did not take care of us. I remember they would bring teachers in to come teach us like English, math, reading, but that was it. I remember doing a lot of chores. Every day we had to do chores, and they had like crazy chores. Even for me being one of the youngest kids, like sweeping, mopping, like doing that stuff. Like that's crazy. You would think older kids would do that, but no. I remember we'd walk to church on Sundays. They'd put us in nice clothes and we'd go to church and then come back and it's like cleaning, chores. I remember, I even have pictures of some of the stuff too. Every 2 weeks of like Saturdays, they would line all the kids up. They would shave all the boys' hair. And then for the girls, they would braid all our hair. But like we had to stand in line and yeah, it was just a tough place growing up. A lot of yelling, a lot of violence. People would come in the middle of the night and try to steal our paperwork because they had an office that had, because we're all wanting to get adopted, and there was an office that had all our paperwork, like our parents, and then our parents that are connected in the like agencies in America, and had all these files or whatever. And I remember people would always try and break in or try and break in for food. And it was pretty sad because some of us, our parents were still alive.
Right. Your parents as in your birth parents.
Yeah, our birth parents. Like some of the kids remember being in the foster home with, they had good parents, but it's just like, circumstances, they just couldn't take care of them or just couldn't be with them 24/7. And their parents would try to visit them. The foster home would not allow that. They would not allow our outside, like our parents to come inside. Our parents would give us clothes and money, and they said, "Oh yeah, we'll give it to your kids." We would never get it. We never got it. And they did a lot of beating. They hit us a lot. And especially if the young ones misbehaved, they would fine your sibling. So it's really sad. Like my sister got hit a lot and my cousins, I remember like seeing that. It was very traumatizing. There's a little funny thing next door. We had this neighbor and they had a monkey. And this monkey was so mean. It would climb the tree. Like it was like a plum tree and then a coconut tree. This monkey would like take the plums or a coconut, like pull it off, and would come to the foster room and like throw it at us or like come. It was crazy.
At the kids?
Yes. And I remember all of us would run away screaming. This monkey was insane. Like, and it's funny, even to this day, we still talk about that. We're like, what happened to that little shit? Like, that monkey was so mean. But yeah, other than that, yeah, very bad memories. And then being adopted, I was blessed. My sister and I were very blessed to be put in a good home with a single mother in America. And the people who I remember being in the foster home with, we all kind of moved to the States close by in neighboring states. So some of us, I lived in New York for a little bit and then Wyoming. And some of them were in Colorado, Oklahoma. So every summer we do like family reunions so that we could all...
With the kids from the same foster
home. And it's because the company that did our adoption process, all those ladies, it connected all those...
I see.
Yeah, all those families together first. And they kind of did like, they would meet on Zoom and it kind of did like, they did trainings and like, things to be aware of. Okay, so these kids are from like a place where bombs go off. So be aware of these like loud sounds in your home, or just be aware of them having a hard time growing up, going through school and like behavior issues and all of this stuff. So it's really cool that they were connected in that way. And then, because when I got adopted, I was like, oh wow, this is the end. I was lucky to be adopted with my sister, but I was like, my cousins are still here. Like I'll never see them again because you know, what if we spread out in whole parts of the world or they go to a different country? Like, that's really sad. But luckily, all our parents wanted us to stay connected. So every summer we do a reunion. We haven't really done one since we're older now. And we all like have college, our own families. But we try to like stay in contact. But it was really hard because I still remember a lot of the traumatic stuff. So I had a hard time sleeping. A lot of times behavior issues, noises. I do not like loud noises. I don't even, coming to America and they do drills, like fire drills, intruder drills. I remember when that first happened to me, I freaked out. I'm like, what is going on? I cried and I just remember like sitting there and like nobody could move me. And they call my mom and they're like, what is going on? Like she won't get up from this chair and everything. And my mom came and I had to explain to them. And I was like, why do they do this? Like, why is all this going on? And my mom was like, Well, here they practice safety just in case things happen. Where I'm used to, there's no safety, but they don't practice that in Africa. Like it just happens, and it's like, oh my goodness. I don't like fighting like at all. So boxing, wrestling, any of that stuff. No, I'm not. I don't like it. And my brothers wanted to do that, and I said, no, you're not gonna do wrestling or fighting or boxing. Like, no. Do you remember where you came from? No.
So like those triggers don't like make you not want to like those things.
Yeah. History class. When they would talk, when in school they talk about like certain parts of Africa and then like the poor countries. I remember one of my teachers mentioned Liberia, and it just triggered me like really bad. And some of the things they were saying, and I was just like, yeah, this is true. Like this is true. Like it is very violent and very poor, and a lot of stuff happens there. And I'm like, that's crazy that they like this stuff is in history books. That's insane to me. And then was it high school? Oh yes, high school. One of my high school history teachers, we were learning about World War I and World War II. And he thought we needed to experience that. So one day, the day before, he tells us, okay, the next day you need to come to school with pots and pans and be ready to write. And I'm like, what in the heck? And I told my mom, I was like, bro, this is crazy. Why does he want us to bring pots? And, like, are we cooking in class? Like, what does this have to do? Oh, whatever. But he was a cuckoo teacher. I'm like, whatever you say. And so coming to that day, the day we came to class, and he had us line up outside of the classroom. There was loud, he had the projector up of like bombs exploding. And you could hear that. And right as I was in line and my friends were going, and when I got closer to the door, I said, no, I'm not going in. I refuse. And he said, you need to go in or I'm going to fail you. And I said, no, I'm not doing this. And he's like, yes, you are, or I'll fail you. And so I was like, okay. I texted my mom and I'm like, by the way, this is what I'm having to do right now. Please contact the school or come here now because I'm not going to do this. But I'm going to go in because I don't want to fail. But please come and like talk to the principal and this teacher too. So I put the pot on my head, and then he had the chairs like stacked against each other, and then he had a blanket over it, so it looked like a tunnel. Yeah. And then he said whenever he'd stop the music, the sound, that's when we'd have to like hurry up, find a piece of paper. He had us fold a white piece of paper into 4 boxes, and we had to pick one person in our family that we'd write a goodbye letter to. So 4 people. How old were you? This is in high school. This is what, junior year? Yes, sophomore or junior year.
So about 17, 16,
yes,
17?
Yes, and I'm just like, how do you find 4 people in your family to write a goodbye letter to? Like, that's crazy to me. Because I was like, I have so many loved ones, and I have so many friends, and only 4 people? I'm like, okay. But he had us do this, and he'd stop the music, and then he's like, right. Okay, continue, right. Like, and insane. And then he was like, after we got done, he said, this is how people in the war felt. They're used to the bombs going off and their lives almost ending, and you need to write a letter. Who are you going to write a letter to? And I just remember sitting in that class. I'm like, what the hell is wrong with this professor? Like, are you mental? Like, what is what is wrong with you? Right. And even like, he kind of knew my story a little bit.
Oh, he knew.
Yes.
Okay.
And the fact that he made me do that, so ridiculous. And my siblings had him too. And my sister had the same reaction. She's like, oh, heck no. Luckily, my sister like threw the biggest one. She's like, I don't care. Give me an F. I'm not going to do it. And so he knew that she went through that experience. But I did it and I completed it. But even some of my American friends, I'm like, they're not used to this. And this is very traumatic for them too. Like they're not in the situation, and they're probably never going to be in this situation. But to make them do this, that's like, why? Why are you trying to create such an awful situation, an awful moment? Like, that is just awful to me. And he was just like, I just want you guys to learn about this. And da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, what the heck? And I just remember him being so crazy. And even a lot of the classmates were crying. Crying. And I remember one girl, she was like, I have so many people to write to. And I feel guilty because I didn't even think about writing to my grandma. Like, she didn't even think about writing to her grandma, and her grandma was one of those people she would write to. And I was like, that's insane. And then I remember my mom was like, I'm here. Like, my mom would text me, I'm here. And I said, oh goodness. My mom went to the principal's office, and my mom even came to the classroom and yelled at him. And she's like, I don't know what is wrong with you, but you need to go back and like go back to school, and you need to get like retaught. This is traumatic. And my mom is also a counselor, so she was like bring up so many good points, like da 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 this, and he was just like, and I was like, yeah, that's my mom. That is my mom. And luckily, my mom like talked to the principal and was like, this is unacceptable. And she's like, I will bring this up to like the school board. This is not okay. I'll bring this up to the superintendent. I'll bring it up to whoever needs to know this. And luckily, he stopped. Like after I went through that, he stopped doing it because it was just too much. Like crazy. And now, like even out of high school, like, you know, in the world you hear about shootings that happen.
Yeah.
Like mall shootings. There's so much violence. And even whenever I hear about that stuff, I get very sad. Like what's happening in Iran and
Palestine.
Palestine, that stuff is scary to me. Because on Instagram, I follow the New York Times. So just even seeing like the bombs going off, that I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so scary. And like homes destroyed, families destroyed, people dying. It's really sad to me. And I'm just like, I feel for everybody that like their futures are destroyed. I feel for them. So it's really sad.
Yeah.
So I do not like violence, and my trauma has a huge effect on me.
So I'm going to cut you off briefly. If you could come a little closer, because I think you're cutting out of frame a little.
Oh no.
It's okay, you're good.
Okay.
We can still continue, that's fine.
Okay.
But just stay a little close. You can lean back if you want to, but maybe just stay a little close. Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah, I think you're okay.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine how like that plays a role in a lot of things. Because, I mean, I'm no psychologist, but from things that I've known or have learned, our childhood essentially feeds into who we become as adults. And in some sense, like I've thought about it this way, in that our adulthood is about learning to deal with our childhood traumas.
Yes.
In a very weird way, but yeah, I still can't understand. Like, if I had to play devil's advocate and like sort of try to think about why that teacher might have done that, maybe they were trying to get you all to understand what might have happened back then. But I still feel like that might not have been the best way to do it.
Yes. Yeah.
Because
I'm like, you could have like sat down with us and like talked about it, and maybe showed some clips, but like to play bombs going off, and make us bring pots and pans. Oh, and he would like hit. He had like a stick thing, and he was hitting like the pots, the helmets. Yeah, he was hitting it too. So I'm just like, oh yeah, oh my god, it just added to the feel. I said if he hits me, and it went bung, and I was like, oh my goodness.
Jeez.
I'm gonna lose my mind. Yeah, and some kids, they're like, oh, I didn't bring a pot, or I didn't bring a pan. He said, oh, it's okay, I have backup. So he brought some of his own, and I was like, bro, did you bring your whole kitchen? Like,
wow, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And this was in Tulsa?
In a small town called Inola.
Okay.
Yeah, I went to school there, and graduated there.
Gotcha. Interesting. Yeah. No, I mean, it just kind of blows my mind that a professor or a teacher would do that. But I mean, hey ho, I don't know what they were thinking in that moment. So
nobody does. Nobody does.
You mentioned the fact that you're able to like sort of have reunions with like cousins and things like that over here.
Yeah.
Have you ever been able to like establish contact with any family that's back home, or do you know of any family that's back in Liberia?
My sister and I, my sister that's in America with me, we keep in contact with two of our older sisters that are back in Africa. My mom sadly passed away.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, my senior year of high school.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and that was really hard because our siblings called us.
Right.
And they were on the phone, and like we had a huge problem with like language barrier. So understanding like what are they saying, and then crying, and a lot of stuff was happening, and they wanted us to fly down there right now. But I'm like, I'm literally in school. My sister is she was a freshman in college, and I was like, we just can't. We can't. And so like we sent money, but we don't even know if it got sent to them because things are so bad.
There's a lot of like corruption and all that kind of
Yes,
stuff.
it's so
Yeah.
corrupted. So we're like, we don't even know.
Yeah.
And we wanted my mom to have a proper funeral, but we had no idea.
Mm.
But we stay in contact with two of our older sisters, and they have kids too. And so sometimes we've been able to like Skype them, or we've Zoom called them before. But a lot of times it used to be really good, and I was so excited that we got in touch with them. But now it's like I feel so guilty and regret, because I'm so blessed with so many things over here. Well, they don't. And a lot of things they don't understand. They're like, well, why can't you just come here? Like, or why can't you send this? They think everything in America is free, or you're given everything that's free. So they're like, just send us a computer. Like, send us so many computers and send us this, send us that, send us that. It's like, no,
That's
like,
not how it works.
that is not how it works.
Yeah.
And like, I'm a college student making college student money. Like,
Right.
I can't send you all this stuff. Like, I'm sorry, I can't even afford that myself. Like, or like cars, like pay for a car, like buy us a car. I'm like, with what money? Like, what money? And so sometimes my sister, I kind of drifted away from them a little bit, but my sister still keeps in contact with them. Of course, she argues with them, and she'll be like, you won't believe like what. But I also feel for them, like, because when I was in Africa, I remember hearing everything in America is free, or America's the good place. America is where like dreams come true, miracles happen, like everything you get is free. And I'm like, wow, like I used to think that way too. And trying to get them to understand that we can't do that, it's so hard, it's so frustrating, it's so sad too. And especially their kids, like we send them money for the kids to go to school, for them to have money for lunch to eat. My adopted mom, like, she sends money to the orphanage home because it got torn down and then built up, and now it's like way better. It's a lot way better too. So we send what we can, but sometimes it's just hard to keep in contact. And some of my cousins or friends that we know that are here, they don't even stay in contact with their families back home anymore, because they're like, I've had it. And like, they don't understand, I've had it. And even some of them were like, yeah, I've tried to be friends with them on Facebook, because they all find us on Facebook. But they always ask for money. Like, it's crazy. Like my brother, his dad will ask him for so much money. And it's like, no, because his dad is a pastor, so he builds churches. But we don't know if that's what he does, because he's like, oh yeah, I'm building. One time we gave him a bunch of money, but he didn't end up building a church. He went and like gambled it. So it's like, how do we know you're actually saying you're doing this? And like, no idea. So it's really hard to stay connected. It really is.
Have you been there since you've moved here?
Yes. Yeah. I visited twice before COVID happened.
Gotcha.
I have not been since
the pandemic.
Yeah, and I'm sure the pandemic hit them like no other.
Right.
And I stay in contact with families, but they wandered. They're like, yeah, nothing's closed here. We just walk around and like.
Yeah, I guess it's quite lax.
Yeah, I'm like, okay. I'm like, here it's shut down. Everything is closed.
Right.
Social distancing is happening, but back home, no.
Yeah.
No, everything was like open, and they don't have any medicine. They don't have like the proper medication to deal with that stuff. So there's like, we just go on with our daily lives, and bygones be bygones, and people die. Like, people die. Like, there's not much they can do. So, yeah. I do want to go back and visit.
Gotcha.
And when I'm older, like all of us kids that are in America right now, we want to build a foster home when we all get older, and we want to help grow a foster home, and we want to give back for what we were given and turn it better than what we were given.
Sure.
So that these kids are lucky and can find homes and they can have a better life. And we want to donate so much to schools and any type of help that we can do. We want to do it. So, yeah, we've all sat down before and we're like, we want to do this. Okay. But...
Are all of your adopted siblings from Liberia, or are some?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So my sister and I are biologically related.
Correct.
My two brothers, we are not biologically related, but they are. So are biologically related. And then we were just all grew up in the same foster home and then adopted together.
Gotcha.
And in the foster home, it's another weird thing they did. They like to make money. So they would break siblings apart. So when they're like, oh yeah, these two are siblings, they're like, no, they're not related. So that they adopt one kid and then they find out, oh, they're siblings, then of course the parent wants to adopt the other kid. So like they're not torn apart. They try to rip my sister and I apart, but we're like, no, we are related. Like, you're not going to separate us. But sadly, between because came to America first. And my mom was like, are they related? Like, she couldn't figure out because he was like, yes, we're related. And my mom believed. But like in the paperwork, they're like, no, they're not related. And even trying to find their parents was so hard. Like, where are their parents at? And the dad, he lies a lot and he just has a lot of issues. And he's like, oh, da-da-da, like, yeah, he's my son. Like, I was like, okay, so they are related. He's like, yeah, but... So it was hard. And then my mom was like, yes, I think they're related. They are related. And they were related. And so came to America as well. But yeah, it's crazy. It's so crazy.
I was kind of going to ask you a question about like going back home and like, do you feel like you already kind of answered that question? I guess sitting in the places that we are, it's kind of hard to realize, or at least for me on the outside, what someone might go through in that cases, in those situations. Because, I mean, I've been blessed to have this life where, you know, I've not had to have those kind of experiences.
Right.
And like with the family that you said that you have back there, like them not possibly understanding how money works over here and all that sort of stuff too.
Yeah.
Like I can sympathize with them a lot because they don't know any better. And kind of like you said, right? Like when you were there, even you felt that way. So yeah, I just don't know. Like, do you ever see yourself maybe moving back there or no?
No. No. I don't ever see myself moving back there, but I definitely don't want to lose my ties back there. Like, I want, you know, I have future plans to help out, and I also want my kids to be able to go back and visit, and, like, I want them to experience that side, too.
And sort of know your roots.
And know my roots, yeah. Like, I don't ever want them to know, like, to not to know, like, where, like, their family came from, where, like, our bloodline came from. Like, I want them to have a part. And I think having my kids involved too, it's going to teach them a lot. Like, of course, they're going to grow up in America, but I also want them to see what it's like in a country where opportunities are not very high.
Yeah.
And because I think it teaches them a lot about character and who they are.
Sure.
And to be more grateful in life, and just, it's cool also. It's really, I think it's really beautiful to for them to experience their culture
and sort of widen their perspective in that way, right?
Yeah, widen their views and what they think. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I was just thinking of something that sort of evaporated out of my head, but I'll see if I can get it back. But in the meantime, you mentioned the fact that a lot of these experiences sort of like affect you to this day, and have sort of shaped you to be who you are. Okay, the question's kind of now back, but the question I was going to ask you is, do you feel like you've had a sense of identity crisis?
Oh yes, yeah, big, yeah, very, 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 because being adopted and then coming to America and being placed in a school where it's mostly white students, white kids. I stood out a lot. My sister and I stood out a lot. And so we tried to blend in. Like, we tried to act like them and be them and dress like them and talk like them because we stood out. They did not understand us. They made fun of us. And we got bullied a lot. And so I was like, okay, well, so don't be different. Have to be the same like them. And so I always acted like them. And then I think it just took like 8th grade. I was like, no, like, why am I'm not them. Like, I'm not them. And there are even certain things I can try to do, but I still will never be like them. And I'm like, I have to be myself. And even back home, like in our home, my mom's like, you are Black and you're African American, and people, you will not be the same as the white students you go to school with. People, you do not look like them and you do not act like them, and you just will not. As much as you will try and copy and paste, it will never It'll never be like that. So you need to be yourself. And it will take a lot of fighting. Like, yes, people are going to look at you differently and they're going to treat you differently, but you have to keep being yourself. Because you have to keep pushing in this world. Like, that's the only way for people. And, even if you keep pushing, people will not accept it, but that's on them. And you just deal with all the adversities that come with it. And so learning like who I am, it was definitely a challenge. And then in America, you have like, so I'm African American, and then you have like Black Americans. And even with that, I never really fit in. And in college, like I joined like the Black organizations and stuff. And it's really cool learning about their history. But their history is different than mine.
Right. Because they grew up here.
They grew up here, yeah. And so I'm like, oh, okay. Like some of the things are similar, like, yeah, like going through like hard experiences. Like some of it is very similar. And their line comes from my line. But they're also American. And like trying to see that side too, I'm like, oh, wow. Okay, like slavery and like racism and all of these things. I'm like, it's different, but okay. So learning that. And then like in college and now, like I'm on the papers. It's like African American, like Black American. I'm just like, okay, I guess I'll fill out this box. But even now, like trying to fit in with Black Americans, sometimes it just doesn't.
It doesn't feel the same.
It doesn't feel the same. The food, and like even the food is different. Right. And so luckily I was blessed to come to UCO, and they have an African Student Association. And so I can relate to them a lot more than I can relate to Black Americans. And it's just it's the culture. Like I still remember my culture. Like even though coming to America, my adopted mom made sure, like she cooked African food. She did her education. Like she read the books. She did everything. So we even ate African food. We listened to African music. Like she braided our hair. She did all of these things to make sure we would never lose touch of our culture. And I have it. And so I connected more with the African students at UCO better than Black Americans. And there are some things I have in common with them, like dealing with like racism, dealing with hard conversations that you have with people. I relate to like, not being included in certain things, feeling like the outcast a lot. I can relate to like more of the sad stuff than the happy stuff, which is really sad. But yeah, it's really hard. And sometimes I'm like, I don't know who I am. I don't know which group to turn to. And then I'm like, what do I do with my kids, Because they're going to be they're going to be Black American. Yeah. But I'm like, I don't know. Okay, if I share them, I give this much experience that I don't really know much of, like the Black history. I don't know much of that. I know a lot of African history. I don't know like Black American history. So I'm just like, okay, I know I'm gonna have to do a lot of reading and figuring out like what do we do. And even my cousin right now, she has kids, and they're. And
your cousin here?
Yeah. Like she was born where I'm from too. But her kids are Black American because they have a white father. So she's just like, and her daughter will not eat African food. She's like, I just don't understand. Like, why don't you eat African food? And her daughter's like, Mom, I like this food and stuff. I'm like, and she's like, whose child are you? Like, you're not my child. But even she sat down with us and she's like, what do I teach her?
Yeah.
Like, what do I teach her? Like, our history? And I'm like, you're going to have to do both. Like, that's how it is, both. Because if you teach her more of African stuff, she's going to be excluded out of like problems that happen here in America with Black people. You have to teach her. You have to. There's no way getting around it or trying to avoid one or the other. Like you have to. So yeah, there's definitely a big identity. Like who am I?
Is that something that I guess like the fact that you're talking about how it could influence your kids? You've definitely given it a lot of thought.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. I think about it all the time. All the time.
You see, I just think about it like, if I was to like sort of look at myself, like those are not questions that I have. I mean, sure, like I wonder about what it might be for, like, would it be better for my future kids if I'm blessed to have them? What would it be if they grew up here versus what it would be if they grew up in India and all that kind of stuff? But like the identity stuff I don't necessarily think about, but yeah, it's just it's quite loaded.
Yeah.
And I really like, to be very honest, like I don't know how to navigate this? Because, yeah, it's just quite loaded. And I think, kind of like you said, you have to do the extra work to sort of make sure that your kids also are supported in the best way possible.
Yes.
To not necessarily lose their identity through their parents, but then also sort of connect to their identity here.
Yeah.
And I guess the understanding that as I'm saying this, I'm sort of gradually coming to is that it's not going to be perfect, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to give them a bit of everything
Right.
that you might want to give them
Right.
because of the environment they grew up in and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But I think you kind of have to like potentially like drip feed everything slowly but surely and sort of get them to sort of learn those things. But yeah, you mentioned the fact that you want to build a foster care home and things back home. I'm guessing that would be something you would help build and then sort of have people look after it over there.
Yes, have people look after it. Yeah, because I'll go visit, but I'm definitely not.
You're definitely not going to go back there.
No. And yeah, I want to just run the whole place and just stay connected, know what's happening, deal with like the money end and also dealing with like, property, the food, all of that stuff, education, making sure they're getting the right everything. Yeah.
Has Liberia as a country changed from the time that you were adopted to now?
Yes, I think a lot. They've had, like, I try to keep up with some of the news.
Sure.
And then some of my sisters, they tell us some things. It's still violent, of course, but they've tried to improve on a lot of security problems with education, health too. I know there's been like a lot of like just people around the world coming and wanting to help a lot in West Africa just because they need it.
Yeah.
And figuring out malnourished issue too. That's one of the big issues.
Right.
There's so many malnourished people. And they're not getting the right supplements. Like even they have food, but it's like not the right food that everybody needs. They don't have all the vegetables and all the fruits and all the things they need to be not be malnourished. So I think that's malnutrition and education. That's a big one too. And then not many jobs.
Right.
Not many jobs. And if people have jobs, like why doesn't it last long? So they still have some big issues. But, yeah.
Have you met any Liberians who you've not known, like through your connections with the foster care back home?
Okay, I've met one. No, I've met two. Yeah, I've met two. Where was I? I went to some camp.
Gotcha.
I think I went to some church camp, and I'd met a girl who was from Liberia. Yeah, but she had gotten adopted like younger than me.
Oh, gotcha.
And she'd been there like twice, but she was like, it's not my home. So it was kind of like weird, like, know? And I'm like, okay. And she's like, I don't know anything about it. Like, people are educating me about it. I don't know anything about it. And I'm like, okay, like, to each their own.
Yeah.
That's sad, but
that's
whatever.
Just the way it is,
and if she wants to learn about it, cool. If she doesn't, that's also
that's
cool.
her choice.
It's her choice.
Yeah.
And then also that lady that was in CRISP, the one that was from Liberia.
Oh, right.
Yeah. I actually met with her, and one time she invited me to her house, and we ate. And it was just so cool to be like connected with her, and I'm just like, wow, like I feel like this is like she's like my mom's age, and I'm like, this is really, really cool. And it made me so sad. Like I was crying, but I was happy. I had like tears of joy too, because around here, like if you ever hear about like a lot of African people being in the U.S., it's like Nigeria or Ethiopia, like other countries. Like you rarely hear Liberians like coming to America. Or I know there are a lot of Liberians that come to New York. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
but in Oklahoma.
Then Oklahoma, because I'm like, well, what is in Oklahoma? But I've like my uncle that lives in New York. Yeah, he said, I always ran into a lot of people who are from Liberia, and they, they come for jobs and better opportunities and stuff. But not in Oklahoma. So, which I understand.
Yeah. Fair. Just to sort of add context, CRISP is a program here at UCO where international students get paired with families who live in the Oklahoma City / Edmond area.
Yes.
Some of them do have international backgrounds, kind of like this one. So that's what that is.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's cool because as you sort of like started going into it, after I asked you that question, I was like, oh yeah, wait, I think there was someone in Chris. But then when you said it, I was like, oh yeah, I definitely remember us talking about this. Yeah. Sort of switching gears a little and sort of going back to your future aspirations and going to law school.
Yeah.
Why law school?
Why law school? Oh, yes. This is so funny. When I still have that piece of paper. When I was in third grade, we always did like assignments like, imagine the future. What do you want to do? Like, what things do you like? And what steps do you need to take to get through those? And I still have this piece of paper. It's in I have a memory box that I have. But I saw this paper when I was packing up my room even this semester. And it was like, okay, go to middle school, high school, college, and then law school. And I think the big reason I want to go to law school is I want to give back to so many things that I went through and had a bad experience or had a good experience, and I want others to experience that. And I really feel like I'm really good with leadership and advocating. Like, I'm really big on advocating, and I think that's what law is, advocating for injustice, like a lot of injustice things. So one of my biggest things is like the education system. Education at times were good for me, but also I also experienced where they were very bad, like very, very bad. Either bad with funding, bad teachers, bad professors, bad food, like, just a lot of things that need to be fixed. And education is where it's at for like the future.
Yeah.
Like our kids, how they're getting taught. What are they getting taught?
Yeah.
Because some of the things that our kids are getting taught, it's like outrageous. It's like, what in the world? Why? Like, why? Why are they getting taught that? Or why are they not getting taught that?
Yeah.
And I think
you're a history professor.
yeah, like that. Yes, that. So education is one of the big things that I'm interested in doing, and especially. So let's see here. Was it my sophomore or junior year? There was in Oklahoma, there was the walkout. There was a teacher walkout.
I think I've heard about this, but then I think I was in Colorado when that happened.
Yeah. It was a huge thing in Oklahoma, and it happened to me. It was my sibling's senior year, and I remember going on spring break, and then they're like, "Oh, we don't know. You're not going to go back to school until like the teachers are getting their demands." And at that time, I was like, why are teachers being so selfish? Like, these students want to graduate. They've worked so hard. They deserve this. But then also, I'm like, wait, I can't just like point out one person and blame them.
Yeah.
I also need to do research and like, why are they doing this?
Yeah.
And I remember getting on my computer and I like looked up so many things. I was reading with so much information. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this makes sense. Yeah, they don't get paid what they're doing. It makes sense. And it's all thanks, like everything points thanks to the teachers. It's them. Like, if you don't have the teachers, like you're gonna have a bunch of what? Yeah. So it made sense, and like I felt for both sides, like the teachers and the students. But luckily, the school I went to and my siblings, they're like, we're not upset. We want the teachers to get what they deserve. They do deserve it.
Yeah.
And so during that whole time, I'm like, wow. And I read through all these things, and I'm like, yeah, like. Okay, I understand. why they're having this walkout. And yes, it was hard, because school was stopped. What do you do with the education? Like, what are kids doing? But I also understood. And then another thing that happened, COVID. I graduated in the year of COVID. That was also so hard, like a very
From
hard.
high school, you got
yes,
right,
like a very hard experience. And then I also entered COVID my freshman year of college. So it was that time. It was so like. I'm like, what did I even do during that whole like time period? I don't even remember. But I just remember how hard it was because I had some friends who, if they're not going to school, they're not going to do their assignments. They don't care.
Yeah.
And also I had friends who, their parents don't care about their education. Like their parents don't even care if they went to school or not.
Yeah.
And it just made me sad. Like like they needed to go to school, like, or else their parents don't care. And I knew some kids who they don't have Wi-Fi or they don't have this in order to like do like the online classes, meet up on Zoom, and then some kids like who need to get out of the house. Like school is their way to get out of the house. Like if they have a bad home situation or that's just what they need. And like me, I need to be out of the house. Like I can't stand being
inside those four walls.
Yeah, no, I cannot do it. I like to expand. I like to talk to people, interact. So that was a huge effect on me too. So education is definitely where it's at for law school. And then another one was just dealing with like black businesses. I remember during the whole like the COVID times and even George Floyd, all those issues like rose up, and I was like, I'm passionate. This is something I want to speak about. Like I'm passionate in this, and I know that like, you know, Black people, they don't, even to this day, like nothing is equal, and they are looked down, and they do not get the support, the funding. They don't get any of it. It's really hard for them to like, you know, broadcast themselves, because who no one's there lined up to help them. And if they do, sometimes it's not the best or the right people to get them connected to, like to expand more. So that, like, I was really interested in that, but I'm still like, I don't know how I could help, what all it takes, but that I'm very interested in. And then the last, having international friends, international law.
Gotcha.
I know a lot of my friends have jokingly, they're like, yes, please, like, do this, you need to. But honestly,
give me a green card.
Give me a green card. But also really though, I've always been a little interested in that. Because in high school, I had a friend, let's see here, her parents were from Mexico. And I remember her telling me like how hard and awful the situation was, all their whole paperwork status. And luckily her older brother was old enough, so they moved to America, and like the older brother took care of them while her parents were in Mexico, and they couldn't come to America. So like that gap and like just being separated from them, it was all hard, you know. And their parents had to send the brother money, and the brother was like paying for like their housing, paying for the kids, like their lunches, paying for this. They needed their parents. But their parents couldn't come here because the stupid law, you know?
Is it DACA?
Yes.
I don't know much about it, but I've heard about it.
Yeah. Like all these situations, like it was so hard. And her parents didn't, like, even in Mexico, they didn't have a good job. So it was hard for them to like kind of fight their case. If like, I think she said her parents like owned a farm or something, and like her mom made clothes or something. So like not a really like good job for like America to be like, oh yes, like pass, you know? So it was really, the DACA situation was so hard. And like, I just remember her crying and like being so frustrated, and like her aunts and uncles and grandparents, they were all in Mexico. So I'm like, girl, how are you doing it? Like, and her poor brother, like her brother, he had aspirations, he had goals, but
he had to sacrifice.
He had to, and I remember she said her brother, he worked all the time, also while trying to go to school. He worked like at McDonald's, and he worked at Walmart too, and like trying to study also. And I'm like, and like he was so tired. And he had to wake up and send her and her, like, because they had a younger brother too, drop them off to school because he didn't trust the bus. Like, he didn't trust, like, people taking care of his siblings. Like, he had to watch his siblings. So, like, just all of that, I'm like, oh, my goodness. That's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And, like, the whole Trump elections, hearing how that man talked about people who are international and like, oh, we don't want, all of that stuff is so negative. And I'm like, you don't know people. Like, you cannot assume people are this way because of history. And you cannot throw a name and like stamp it on somebody. That is not okay. A lot of the things he said, I'm just like, who are you? Hearing, oh my gosh, what was it that they did? That they were separating kids from their moms, and like the kids, like, and keeping them in keeping them in cages or something. Oh my gosh, reading and hearing that stuff, I was so infuriated. It broke my heart. I was so angry. But at that time, I was in high school. I'm like, what am I going to do? You know? And I remember like my teacher, like my English teacher was like, write about it. You know, write about it. And even during like the George Floyd thing, write about it and like send it, email it, mail it to like the Capitol or whatever. But at that time, I'm like, I'm not that important. Like, I'm just another person on a piece of paper. Like, what are they going to do? How am I going to affect that? But all those situations, like, infuriated me. And I'm like, I want to do something about this. Like, I want to be on a team that fights against this because this is not okay. Like, treating people that, like, they're not human.
Yeah.
That doesn't, oh my God, my brain can't even, like, come to, like, an understanding of how does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Like, that's so awful. Like, tearing people apart, ripping families apart, tearing, like, people down. Like, people have so many beautiful things in them. Yeah. They are a person. And treating them like they're not, like, what is wrong with you? Like, did you go through that experience? What in your right mind makes you think that's okay? And then, like, also, oh gosh, even the education in Oklahoma and with Black students and them trying to take the fundings away from Black programs and other programs of people of diverse, like trying to rip those fundings from them. Like, who are you? Who are you to tell them they're not struggling? Like, and that you don't see change or you don't see how this helps them. Like, who are you?
Right.
Okay, crazy. But yeah, even that too. And then also like being at UCO and seeing how hard it is for even my international friends to like travel to go back to their own home, or how hard it is for them to get jobs, or how hard just all the paperwork they have to do. Yeah. Why is it that hard? Like, why is it that hard? And I remember like being adopted, I came to America. My sister and I had to take an American test.
A citizenship test?
Yeah, I call it the American test. Are you a real American or not? And I remember at the time, my sister and I were too young to take it. We didn't even understand any of the grammar, any of the words. And I think when you're at a certain age, your parents can help you.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So my mom helped my sister and I take it at that time, but we had to take it again once we got older. Oh. Yeah. So they made us take it again. And even the stuff on that paper, I said, I don't even know this. Like, I don't even know if they taught this in history class, in government class. I don't even know. Like, what, like, how many stars does the American flag have? I don't even know. Like, I don't know and I don't care. But like, we somehow passed. Like, my sister and I remember my sister and I, like, studying the books, like, okay, looking up stuff on the internet. And, you know, the internet changes. So, like, how do you know what's true and what's not? Like, it asks so many ridiculous, stupid questions. And I'm like, this question is going to, like, say if I'm American, proves if I'm American or not. Like, why can't I just sing, like, the national anthem and then call it, oh, yeah, you're good. Like, why can't I do that? Like, why do I have to, like, and the questions were, like, 50 questions. It was like, this is ridiculous. Right. And I'm like, and I was like, I remember sitting in that room and like looking at other people and they were like confused. And I'm just like, and then you had like these guards like, pay attention to like, look at your own paper. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like this is, but I'm like, this is makes or breaks. And I'm like, and I remember sitting there, I'm like, and I asked my sister, I was like, what if we don't pass? Like, what are they going to do? Are we going to have to go back home? Like, are we going to have to wait and then take it again? Like, what do we do if we don't pass? So, all that worried me, but luckily we passed. But it was just like, what makes you think like, oh my God, so frustrating. And then how long it took for my sister and I to become official citizens of the U.S.
Gotcha.
That process took 16 years. 16 years, the paperwork. And my mom started it even before my sister and I came to the U.S. Why does it take that long?
Yeah, I think the problem is, I mean, from the very little that I know, like the immigration system is broken, for the lack of a better word.
It is, yes.
And it's quite old on top of that.
Yes.
So I think a lot of things need to be worked on, need to be changed and all that kind of stuff.
And I want to be a part of that.
Right.
For law school, I want to be a part of that because I'm just like, no.
Yeah.
Like, and a lot of, you know, with all this law stuff, like, and government issues, I've wondered, like, are these people who grew up, like, born here and grew up here, like, what are some of the issues, like, how do they not I always have a struggle with how can people not care, have empathy for other people, or how how doing injustice things, how does that make sense to them, or like how I'm just like what, like how, what is wrong with you? Have you never experienced like this other side before? Have you always gone your way? It's always been good for you, like, and if life has just been great for you, then how are you even standing?
Right.
Like if you've had no adversity whatsoever, like how are you? I just don't understand.
Yeah, I guess with that, I mean, the things that come to mind when you're saying those things are, I think it's a lack of perspective, a lack of knowledge, to some
What
level,
they grew up with.
right? Some level of ignorance.
Yes.
And I think also as human beings, like, for us, like, I mean, we've had very different types of adversities as humans, right? So I think even in those situations, like the type of adversities that everybody has, while might be the hardest things to experience for them, like for someone who's probably had much more to deal with, we're kind of like, that's nothing.
Yeah.
I personally do think that might be a little unfair because everybody is in their own places and, they have their own experiences. So it's hard for us to know what they might have gone through because I guess we're all just brought up in very different ways, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, not to necessarily say that one is lesser or one is more, but it's just experiences that people have.
Yeah.
But I do kind of go back to my initial point of the lack of knowledge and like that ignorance sort of leads to a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
So that makes it hard for them to probably understand, like, oh, maybe this is why, like, they're going through those things and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
The funny thought that I had when you were talking about some of the international students and, like, the sort of things that they have to go through, I guess we're still identified as non-resident aliens, which I kind of find funny. It's like, and you're calling us aliens?
I didn't realize that until I saw it on the piece of paper.
Right.
And I'm like...
Yeah. I mean, I see the funny side of it. But it's like, wow, we're called aliens.
Aliens! Like, what in the world?
Yeah, that's just funny to me.
Oh my gosh.
I guess it all just goes to show, like, the antiquated and, like, how the antiquated system and just how old it is.
Yes, very, very old.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
come on. Oh
yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it's just funny to sort of observe some of those things and how a lot of these things don't change, but society changes, culture changes so much, and especially in the times that we live in, and like with technology changing so much, I think society in itself is just changing so quickly, and like
and there are just some things that are not changing with it.
Right.
Law is one of them.
Those things are just very slow to change, like diplomacy, and all that kind of stuff just takes forever to change. I just. Because I've heard of stories of where people have lived here for ages and have still not gotten their paperwork to where they just turned their backs and left. Because they were like, I guess this is not worth it. Because at that point, they couldn't even travel back home. They had to be here for 7, 8, 10 years or something. And they still didn't get anything. So they're like, at this point,
and while they're waiting here, they're like bound by certain things. Like they can't do certain things. They can't act out of order. They can't, and I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, to see it from a different angle, I guess, laws help sort of, I guess, keep things within certain boundaries, if you will. But I think as times change, those boundaries also have to change.
Yes.
But essentially the boundaries haven't changed to some extent, or to a large extent. So I guess those things need to be changed. And I know since we've sort of touched on it, let me know if you don't want to go into this any further, but we sort of brought up politics. I'm curious to know, like, since you've sort of chosen law as like your path forward, does the future of the election or what might happen worry you, or does that like your whatever? It's
it does worry me because it worries me because I want to know, like, what am I going to be taught in law school? Am I going to be taught like good stuff or what opinions of what some idiot is saying or thinking? Am I like what I want to fight against? Will I not be able to fight against it? Will I be blocked?
Right.
I worry about it a lot, and I'm like, oh my gosh, will I want to fight whatever the fight will be, will it be harder for me? I'm sure it will.
Yeah.
I'm sure it will. But just like how much of it's going to change and how am I going to adapt to it? What things will I have to change and what things will I be willing to accept? And still keep doing it or go a different route or just be like, okay, like this might not be it.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah. And I guess it's something that you'll figure out as you get into it, right? Because I think it's hard to sort of be on the outside and know where you'll be headed.
Yeah.
Or where you'll be going. But I guess some of that you kind of have to figure out in those moments and sort of see what happens. And I mean, sure, I think like knowing where you want to go is very helpful. But it's not easy to stick through those things.
Yeah.
And I mean, I personally believe like, you know, if that's something that you want to do, go for it. But if you feel like you don't want to do it, then I think you have the right to change your mind and like do something else.
Yeah.
Because if it takes away from the essence of you being a human being and not being able to like enjoy your life, like at least enjoy the work that you're doing too, and sort of seek some level of peace from the work that you're doing and like a sense of accomplishment from the work that you're doing, then I think you have the right to leave and like do something else. But that's not to say that people like should leave when things get hard right away.
Right. Yeah,
you know, I think it's also about like navigating through those moments and like getting there. So it's a balance that people have to find, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, the reason like that I find that interesting that you mentioned what you might be taught and the kind of things that they might, or the kind of boundaries that they might set on you when you're in that path. I think the one realization I've come to, and this is based on some of the stories I've also heard about like the education system back home, you start to realize as you grow older that a lot of the things that you learn in school are essentially what people in power want you to learn.
Yeah.
It's not what you should know. It's what they want you to know. And I guess if you're not aware of this, and I think in these times and like the age that we live in today, we're aware of the fact that there's a lot of things that we might not know, or that certain things are being hidden from us just because of the nature of social media and like how there's more people talking about it and you hear about it. I'm sure people back in the day also knew this, but I don't know if the amount of people that knew it were as high as it is now. Yeah. But it's definitely like a major issue because like even about some things about Indian history, like I can't think of specific examples right now, but they sort of talk about how X was great or Y was great. But then if you go and like hear some other people who've like looked at the alternatives and the other things that have happened, you're sort of like, wait, hold on. Like,
they're not
the same. Like, for example, I guess like an easy example to bring up is Gandhi. And like, he's like this bastion of good things. And I didn't live that age, so I'm sure he did some things right.
Right.
But there's a lot of stories also that have come out where he's like, oh no, he's a bit of a shithead. Like, you know, so... I'm having a lot of thoughts. That's why I'm just sighing as I'm like thinking about it.
Yeah.
But I guess to one extent you can think about it and you're like, oh, humans are humans at the end of the day. There are going to be some good things about them. There are going to be some bad things about them.
Right.
I think we need to, as humans, realize and accept both of those things.
Yes.
And I think as long as it doesn't affect or harm other people, like... we have the opportunity and we're blessed enough to be able to deal with the negative sides that we have.
Yeah.
And like work on those things. Because nobody's perfect. Like,
correct.
I have my own like sort of ways that I might not be the best person. So, you know, I think we all have that. So, like, I guess as I'm saying those things, I'm for some reason trying to give Gandhi grace. I don't know why, but here we are. But yeah, like in a place that he is in, I think we should be able to talk about the good things and the bad things he did in school.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be essentially a version of worshipping him in school.
Right.
Because I mean, he's on our like currency bills and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I mean, I've heard some people say, oh, they should change it and all that. That's whatever. I mean, I don't really care either way. It's just money. And I mean, as time goes on, we're probably going to be using cards more than we will use cash anyway. So that's a different thing altogether. But
Yeah.
yeah, like I think you realize how much people in like the political arena and like the people who hold power, how much they control. Because
Yes.
even with like the DEI stuff that you referenced earlier, and for those of you who don't know, I think it's diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Inclusion, yes.
Right, so that's essentially like one of the wings over here in terms of education that sort of goes into educating people about like diversity and like many different things.
Yes.
And some lawmakers over here in the state of Oklahoma are working to sort of cut some of those things off. And like that's being cut off at school systems, even at university systems and so on.
Yeah.
There's certain nuances with that too, I guess, that I'm not aware of, so I'm not going to go too much into it.
Yeah.
But I guess generally people should be able to have the opportunity to learn about those things.
Yes.
I guess like I can understand where some people are like, I don't want them to be forced to learn certain things. And at that point, I kind of feel like, okay, it's a choice.
Right.
Right? If you want to learn it, fine. If you don't want to learn it, also fine. But
yeah.
just don't be a shithead about it.
Yes.
That's all.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I guess know or realize as a human being that there's more than what you know.
Yes.
And it's hard to realize that. I don't think it's easy to get to that point, but we all have to sort of like get to that point and realize that what you know is not the reality of the world.
Right. Yeah.
It's
not
just
the
your
right or correct. Yeah. It's
Right.
just how you see it. Yes.
Right. It's just your reality at the
Yes.
end of the day.
Yeah.
It's your subjective perspective of the world, not necessarily how the world actually operates.
Yes. Yeah. That is so true.
Yeah. I guess that's just the world we live in.
Yeah.
So, like, more power to you for like wanting to get into that field and like explore that, because it's a challenge. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I think we all want to do things that are beneficial to us and to other people, but then I guess getting into like law is just it's like muddy waters.
Yeah.
It's a
lot.
Yeah, but more power to you for wanting to like explore that and like wishing you the very best with law school too.
Thank you.
Is there anything else that you want to share or talk about?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
I guess the other question I had that sort of I was reminded of, what made you choose accounting?
Because I wanted a business degree in something.
Gotcha.
And math has always been, I've hated math, but I've been good at it, which I'm like, I don't understand. But I'm like, okay, I'll just take a skill that I have and work with it.
Right.
And so I was like, you know what, accounting, let's try it. It seems really hard, but I took an accounting class and I actually liked it. And yes, it was frustrating. The homework is hard, but I was good at it. So I was like, okay, I'm going to take accounting 1, accounting 2, accounting 3. Okay. This is, okay, I'm good at it. And I was just like, why not? And I can always do something with it. I don't know what I will do with it and if I will do anything with it, but why not? And my siblings have like a business degree, so like finance, marketing.
Gotcha.
My family, they have, so, and I know we have business in the family, so even if I wanted to like retire or do some like back away from law, I have another
avenue
foot, in some other door. So
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Interesting. I guess this could be sort of the closing question that I have for you before we wind up. What are some things that you've learned in your time here at UCO?
At UCO, what are some things I've learned?
About yourself, about the world in general, about the people that you've met.
Oh, wow.
Or human beings.
Oh, wow. That's a big question.
Tackle it however you want.
Yeah. I've learned a lot. First, let's start with myself. I think going through college and being at UCO and just in life in general, I think I've just had to learn to give myself grace. I used to push myself so hard to like succeed, to not turn out like some people or what people think, like what people label me as, or what they think I should be doing or what I can't do. And I used to fight so hard, and I'm like, I don't want to turn up like what those people think. And even though it was really good, like I'm glad where I'm at, like where I'm at right now, I'm really good. But I also look back and so many nights of being stressed, tired, anxious all the time, always crying, always like having doubts and just putting too much pressure on myself. And sometimes I lost why I was wanting to do what I was doing. I lost, I didn't want to have fun. I didn't think it was fun. I just thought it was a chore. And sometimes I hated doing what I was doing in my daily life. And so I had to really learn balance and to give myself grace and it's okay. Okay, if I lose at this, it is okay. That doesn't.
You're not a loser.
Yeah, I'm not a loser, and I can always improve and work harder, or just go a different direction, and that is okay. So just giving myself grace. And I think in college, a lot of people, they come and in the past, I think they used to think like, I have to know what I'm doing in college or else I will not succeed. I will go nowhere. And that is not the case anymore. Like, you get so many people that come to school and they're like, honestly, I don't know what I don't have a major yet, or I just want to study in this, but I'm not sure. Or a lot of people end up changing their majors, and that is okay. So I think just giving yourself grace to everything. It is okay if things don't work your way, because I think society has taught us, and we must learn to like adapt to all these changes. And it has to be okay, because if it's not, how are you going to go on? You're not. You're going to be stuck. And you're not have no direction. So just giving myself grace and allowing whatever happened, it happened, and learning and figuring out a way how to move on from it. And I think with my friends, I've learned so much. I think with all my friends, I think I've learned what love is, a lot, and trust. Like I have so many friends and so many international friends, and I'm amazed by them. Like I really am amazed by them. Like all of you guys like came here in the middle of adulthood where like you're discovering yourself, you're discovering things. You have no idea like what you're doing, but the fact that you guys came here and you're trusting whoever, and you're trusting in things, and like you're putting your faith, because if you're not, like how are you gonna do things? So you guys, I don't know, a lot of people have shown me so much love and so much grace, and they look up to me, and it's overwhelming, but in a good way. And I love it, and I love that I get to learn from each person, and I learn about myself, but I learn about them, I learn about the culture, I learn about a different perspective. It's just so much love. Like I have so much, I've learned so much love throughout my friends. And then just UCO, I feel like UCO is just like everything. Like UCO welcomes everything. The good stuff, the crazy stuff, just everything. It's just everything. It's like one huge bubble, There disasters happen, but also a lot of success has happened with this school. So many people are like out there doing amazing things, and some people have had downfalls, but they've figured out a way to get back on their feet. And even if it's a slow process, they're still getting there. One of my friends, Belen, I think you had her on the podcast, during finals week. You know how the president says, it's a great day to be a Bronco. But we made, one day we were just so exhausted about like college life. And we went on the whiteboard and we wrote about a lot of things about college, and then just like in general in life, what you don't know, the things, and how are you supposed to learn all these things that you're not taught or you're not given, and like then you have to figure out if that's the best decision for you and navigate so many like crazy things. And one thing my friend Belen said, she said, what does he say? It's a great day to be a Bronco, but if it's just not your day, that's also okay. And I loved that she wrote that, because yes, that is also okay. Because, some days you're just not feeling it. Some
days it's probably a bad day.
Yeah, some days it's just one of those days. And during finals week, like my car wouldn't start. I was almost late to a finals. I had to work too. And I was just like, I'm about to explode. Like, fuck everything. Like, I don't know where, like, I just had a day.
Yeah.
And so luckily we were able to be in that room and just write so many things. And like, it made me realize that UCO is everything. Like, everything comes with it. And it's just crazy that it keeps moving with everything. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess the one realization that I've come to too as well is, I guess we're in that age group of where we're sort of figuring ourselves out. And, you know, you're going to have those moments where you're just, like, you're not sure about yourself.
Yeah, you're not sure about yourself at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun day that we did that.
Right. No, I'm sure that, like, letting it out and venting about it that way by writing about it like, helped you articulate your thoughts, but also sort of let them out at the same time.
Yeah,
So
and we
cool.
had people, like, other people come in that room and they were like, write this idea. And we're like, oh, we never thought about that. Yes, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
And it was cool because Belinda and I are seniors, but we also had people joining us who were like freshmen, sophomore, juniors, and even a master's student. It was just like, wow, this is really cool.
Yeah.
This is really cool that we all have different ideas and we're just here writing them out.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, that does sound super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Princess.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I had a lot of fun. I hope you did too.
I did. I talk a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that, but
That's all good. That's all good. I appreciate the fact that, you know, you talk a lot because I was able to sort of explore a lot of things with you. So, yeah, thank you so much once again for coming
absolutely.
on.
Thank you.
Yeah, and for those of you watching, thank you so much. We will see you guys next time.
Yes.
Cool.